Hello and welcome to Dingoes Ate My Podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And this week we are discussing the episode of Angel entitled Cavalry. Alrighty, so this episode originally aired February 12th, 2003, attracting approximately 3.69 million viewers. Alrighty, so why don't we start off with the number one film in America this week, Dave? Any ideas what that might be?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if it was the one from last week. Mostly just the case of I still remember the title in the back of my head, and whether or not it was just a case of repetition or particular things like that. One or 10 ways to lose a
So
boyfriend, I believe it was.
last week was How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. It is
That
not
was it.
still the number one film in America. Another film holds that distinction. Unfortunately, it's not a very good movie. The number one film in America this week is it's Daredevil.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, doing just over $40 million at the box office. I wish this movie didn't suck because I love Daredevil.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those cases of it looked interesting and we rented it for a sleepover sort of thing. And yeah, only the first 5 minutes of the film and all of us fell asleep.
At least we got the Netflix series later on, but this movie is not good.
Sadness.
It was very sad. Alrighty, let us move on to the number one song in America this week, Dave.
Yeah, I still wouldn't be surprised if it was still the song from Jennifer Lopez from last week.
It is still All I Have by Jennifer Lopez featuring LL Cool J.
Mm.
Now, let us move on to the video games because, oh boy, is this a good week. Alrighty. So, starting on the day the episode aired, February 12th, if you had a PS2 or were a PC gamer, you could pick up. I want to say this game only came out. Oh no, it did make its way to North America. This is the North American release date. I didn't think it did,
Uh,
but it is Knight Rider the game.
Neat.
No, it's
Don't
terrible.
think it's one I've ever touched.
It's real bad. Is real bad. Okay, moving along from that, also on February 12th, if you had a Game Boy Advance, you could pick up Yu-Gi-Oh! Dungeon Dice Masters. Apparently,
Yes,
Yu-Gi-Oh! Was still a thing in 2003.
it was. And it was also a marvelous case of it's not just a card game, it's a dice game now.
I literally know nothing about Yu-Gi-Oh! So,
Well, it's probably for the best because, oh god, has it ever gotten convoluted?
okay, moving along to February 13th, if you were a PC gamer, you could finally, after it was no longer an Xbox exclusive, pick up Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell.
Neat. With all the sneakings.
Yes! And I can't wait for the remake to come out. I think that's coming out next year, and I'm very, very excited.
Hmm.
Alrighty, moving on to February 15th. If you had a PS2, you could pick up a game called Disaster Report. You familiar with Disaster
Was it
Report?
neat?
Sorry?
Yeah, I've got nothing on that. Like, at the very most, it kind of reminds me of the Destruction Core on the N64, supposedly, but I don't know that game on the PS2.
Okay. Moving along to February 16th, if you had a PS2, you could pick up Yu-Gi-Oh! The Duelists of the Roses. Which I'm sure will make sense to you, but does not to me.
Like, it's there. I know it's Yu-Gi-Oh, but I never really stuck with the series when it was in the games, so I have no idea.
Fair enough. Alrighty. And the final game for this. Oh no, I tell a lie. There we have a bit of a break between the next episode and here, so we're going to do a few more. February 17th, if you had a PS2, I know you'll be familiar with this game, Dave. It's Dark Cloud 2.
One. It's always neat and fancy, though it's a case of I've only really played the beginning, and I actually only need to work on playing through it.
Very good. Now, moving on to February 20th, if you had a PS2, this is probably something you'll be familiar with as well. It's Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne.
Ah, yes. Very interesting, but horribly punishing. If you do not know what you're doing, the game will bend you over and smack your tushy.
Alrighty. Moving on to February 24th, if you had an Xbox, you could pick up a little game called Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb.
I guess from what you're saying. Yeah, Indiana Jones game. It was a thing.
Yes, it also would come out on the PS2 and PC a little later on. Alrighty. What else do we have before our next episode? February 25th, if you're a PC gamer, there was a expansion for EverQuest. This one was the Legacy of Yekasha. I don't know how you pronounce that.
Meh.
And that looks like... When is our next episode? It is the 5th. Yeah, that looks like about the only major things to come out between now and then. Alrighty. Let us talk about this episode quickly. Now.
Indeed.
Okay. Connor, Wesley, and Cordelia force their way into Wu Pang's chambers and question him about Angel's soul, only to find that the soul still remains in its container. However, Wu Pang warns them that if the container is broken and the soul isn't being controlled, the soul will cease to exist. Angelus will get out, and they'll be, and I quote, screwed. In his cage at the Hyperion Hotel, Angelus continues to taunt the Angel Investigations team. Angering Gunn over his relationship with Fred, Lila sneaks in, emerging from the sewers holding a crowbar, and attempts a deal with Angelus. She tells him that she wants him to destroy the Beast, who has now killed everyone who worked at Wolfram at Heart, including those who weren't in the office when he attacked, and she is the final survivor. Back upstairs, Gunn and Fred discuss their relationship and Fred's recent kiss with Wesley. Gunn realizes that the relationship is past the point of no return, and he ends things between them. He then spots Lila on the video monitor and rushes downstairs to put a tranquilizer dart into Angelus while Lila runs off. While the others question Lila's intentions, Wesley chases and catches her. He thumbs through her copy of Reinhardt's Compendium, finding information his copy does not contain. Lila had received her copy on the pan-dimensional black market, and Wesley determined someone has erased the information in this dimension, which includes memories, explaining why Angel doesn't remember the Beast, while Angelus, who was dormant at the time, does. The team discusses the Beast, and if he could have servants working for him. However, Angelus wakes up and informs the team that the Beast doesn't have servants. Rather, it is a servant. He begins to explain that the Beast he knew only cared about destruction and didn't have the smarts to did not have the smarts necessary to cause the rain of fire or block out the sun. Therefore, it stands to reason that something even worse is waiting in the shadows and pulling the Beast's strings. Wesley returns with Lila, but the team is suspicious of her and drill her about her intentions. Gunn leaves to keep watch on Angelus, who pushes Gunn's buttons again over his relationship with Fred and the group. He mentions Dr. Seidel's death, which he knows about because even Angel's not that stupid. He offers to keep what Fred did a secret, but Gunn corrects him that Fred didn't kill Seidel, prompting Angelus to praise him for stepping up and being the man. Angelus mock commiserates with Gunn about Fred's affection shifting to Wesley, citing Wesley's recent descent into more violent behavior as the cause. Angelus teases, "For once in your life, you just weren't dark enough." Gunn responds with a blast from his flamethrower, and Angelus crows that there's hope for Gunn yet. Fred informs Wesley that she is no longer with Gunn, but Wesley takes the news as an opportunity to make another move on Fred. Though he's interrupted by Cordelia and Lila. Lila and the team argue about the possibility of saving the world. And then Cordelia gets visions that allow her to see how to get Angel's soul back. Fred goes downstairs to inform Wesley about Cordy's vision, and she exchanges barbs with Angelus. While mock praising Wesley, Angelus casually mentions his sexual liaisons with Lila, which shocks Fred. Gunn and Connor dig up the grave of a Soul Eater, the skull of which is needed to return Angel's soul. Once they hit the coffin, the Soul Eater proves to be more active than dead and attacks the duo. With Connor incapacitated, Gunn is able to chop the demon into bits and retrieve the head. Meanwhile, the beast offers a gift to its unseen master, a dagger made of his bone. Cordelia and Fred present the talismans they built for the spell, while Gunn and Connor return with the fresh demon head. The spell is set up in the basement while Angelus tries to discourage them from trying. Wesley chants and a mist emerges from the skull, passes through the talismans, and surrounds Angelus in the cage. Angel's soul seems to be returned. Angel sings for Lorne and it's concluded that his soul has been returned. Still worried, Angel decides to stay in the cage and direct the others. Cordelia refuses to take his orders because he's acting like a coward and convinces him he needs to be out of the cage. Free. Angelus grabs Cordy, revealing he is still Angelus. Cordy fights back and tries to hide in the cage, but Angelus knocks her out and heads upstairs to continue his angel charade. Angelus drops in on Fred and the others who are still fooled by him. But they don't get long to chat as he leaves, spouting an excuse about having to go save the world. Spotting an unconscious Cordy in the cage, they realize Angelus lied and depart to find him. A consensus is reached that they won't be saving Angelus, they'll be killing him on sight now. Angelus roams the chaotic streets of Los Angeles, but he can't find anything but dead bodies and vampires. How inconvenient. He doubles back to the hotel. Lila fires a round of bullets at him, and Cordelia tries to shoot him with a crossbow. But none of the attempts are successful. Angelus throws the crossbow bolt back at Cordelia's leg, taking her down and leaving him to deal with Lila. Connor tracks Angelus back to the hotel. Angelus stalks Lila until he finally finds her trying to hide. He takes her axe from her, but before he can kill her, she tosses him over a stair railing and runs off. Lila runs into Cordelia, telling her that Angelus is trying to kill them all. Cordelia stabs Lila in the neck with a knife made from the beast's bones and says that she let Angelus out for this very reason. A dun dun dun.
Kind of a marvelous piece of what? What?
So, what do we think of this episode, Dave?
So, quick little side points before going on. Started the episode with Lude paying a gang and everyone coming to visit. Yeah, he needs to get better guards. This has happened twice, and there hasn't been any sort of change.
Yeah, well, good guards are hard to find sometimes, Dave.
Yeah, so true, especially with the apocalypse thing kind of going on.
Exactly.
And then, of course, we go back to the multiple dimension nonsense of, oh man, I don't want people in this dimension knowing about stuff. Erase.
Exactly. It's very helpful when you can just erase things from a certain dimension.
It's just a marvelous case of, oh dear God, why? Why? You're starting to dive into the territory of what sort of shit are you doing?
So what do you think's up with Cordelia?
Oh my God. Just with seeing that particular bit from the episode, I was like, what? What? Just like, I don't even know. But just with hearing this back again, there was the small little caveat of what she was using. Why does she have that? What sort of additional player are we dealing with?
Well, we know that the beast has some kind of a master. Could it be Cordelia?
No.
I thought you were just like, no. I will not accept this.
Because on the one hand, no. And then, of course, on the other hand, no. Just with all the ridiculousness that's kind of been going on with her being divine, coming back with all the particular things, and all the other stuff that had to go through, I'm not even sure if it's even a case of things that happen within other episodes. It's like, aha, things stuck into the stuff and whatnot. No. Just flipping no.
Okay, well, I guess we'll have to find out eventually.
Indeed.
Yeah, to see what's going on here. So, Next week. Oh, actually, we haven't done international titles yet. Let us quickly go through that. Because
Anything else to pose interesting?
there's a few. A lot of them end up being just cavalry or some variation of this. There are a few different ones, though. So in French, it translates as the big threat.
Yeah, because on the one hand, there's the beast, then there's Angelus. Now there's something bigger. And it's like, ugh, make up your mind.
And in German, it translates as the secret of the beast.
Yes, with the discoveries.
Yes, all sorts of things are happening. Now, next week we'll be discussing the episode Salvage.
Because, Calvary was a little bit misleading. It's like, yay, everything's all great. Actually, not really. So, we're going to have to salvage something.
So I've both good news and bad news, Dave, about this episode.
Oh, joy. And is the good news even really good news, or is it just better than what the other option is?
Well, I guess that depends. We're gonna see a member of the Buffy cast come over for an episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna read you a quick little kind of preview for this episode, and then you can tell me if it's actually good news or not. This should be fun. When Angelus meets up with the Beast, he learns that the rain of fire blacking out the sun and stealing Angel's soul was part of the Beast's mysterious master plan to bring Angelus back. Meanwhile, Wesley releases the vampire slayer Faith from prison to help capture Angelus.
Okay.
We're getting Faith.
Very much interesting. Yeah. Just the case that she might be able to help. Still kind of the cases of, oh god, how flippin' convoluted is this plan that this big bad boss has with the Beast and whatnot.
So, do you think we'll just have Faith for one episode, or do you foresee her being around longer than that?
Kind of a toss-up as it sits. I can't specifically remember too much from the Buffy series, but I think it might be a case of Faith could come, assist with the case, and possibly help out with stuff. But then there's always the option of she could be killed. She could supposedly help, but whether or not she's kind of been imprisoned enough to kind of work out her supposed thoughts, she could also run off.
Well, okay, so we know Faith can't die because she has to be in the last episodes of Buffy. And those haven't aired yet.
So I wasn't sure how long that went from the Buffy series.
No, so this season runs at the same time as Buffy season 7.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming up to the end of the Buffy, and then Angel will have one more season after that. So we know Faith has to kind of survive however long she's going to be here. All I'm going to tell you is that it will be more than one episode.
Radios.
But she is going to have to make her way back to Buffy at some point.
Joy.
But it's Faith, and Faith is always good.
Indeed. Depending on the mood.
Yeah, well, I mean, in all fairness, she does, she really hates Angelus, so that'll be helpful.
Indeed, it will help.
Also, what do you think is going to happen with Lila? Do you think she's dead, or do you think she's going to come back?
Honestly, as it kind of sits, I wouldn't be surprised if this is another issue of the ceremony supposedly did something, but this might be a supposed vision of stuff that's happening, but as it kind of sits, I don't even know. I just need to see the episode to see what the flip is going on.
Well, all I'm going to say is those employment contracts with Wolfram and Hart are very strict. So, until next time, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.